I'm going to talk about the Defence Assisting Officer, the DAO, and I'm going to talk about the different ways in which a DAO may be required and how a DAO may help in different ways. It seems that the role of the DAO varies depending upon whether the DAO is appearing at court-martial, at summary hearing, or at civilian court. So I want to consider each of these in turn. At court-martial, the role of the DAO is set down at JSP 830 Annex B. This sets out that the role of the DAO is to be a facilitator. It's to ensure that the defendant attends the right court on time, having had the correct transport and accommodation beforehand, attending ready for the hearing, attending with escorts if necessary. And the role of the DAO in that case is to help the defendant prepare any documentation, for example, an application to AFCLA, to the Armed Forces Criminal Legal Aid Authority for funding, or to help secure witnesses, or to secure a site visit, matters such as that nature. It's a proactive facilitating role. However, JSP 830 makes clear that the role of the DAO is not to provide legal advice and is not to represent the defendant. It is there to facilitate the defendant's attendance at court. JSP 830 also makes clear that a DAO must be of the rank of at least sergeant, and that the DAO cannot have been part of the chain of command involved in the case against the defendant. So they have to be independent. They can't be a witness against the defendant, for example. So that's at court-martial. The role at court-martial is to be a facilitator. At summary hearing, the role of the DAO may be a bit more proactive. And the reason for that is that a defendant at summary hearing cannot have a lawyer represent them. So a defendant appearing before their commanding officer cannot bring a solicitor or a barrister to represent them at the hearing before their commanding officer. This means that the defendant has to represent themselves with the assistance of the DAO. That may mean that the DAO has to be able to help the defendant present their case in front of their commanding officer. Finally, at civilian court, the role of the DAO most regularly comes into its own if the defendant has been convicted, so either they've pleaded guilty or been found guilty by a court. The role of the DAO in that instance can then be to present mitigation or to help the defendant's lawyer present mitigation to the civilian court to explain the potential consequences of any sentence that a court may pass upon the defendant. So, for example, a DAO may be able to bring to a civilian court the defendant's recent SJARs, or may be able to explain something of the effect of Major AGAI 67 upon the defendant for receiving a conviction in the civilian criminal courts. So in summary, the role of the DAO varies depending upon whether the matter is taking place at court-martial, at summary hearing, or at civilian court.